All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1,000,000 Relationships Podcast. And today we're here with Steffani. Steffani, I should have asked you. I want to make sure. How do you pronounce your last name?
LeFevour, like
That's
fever.
what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, perfect. And man, I have really been looking forward to this.
Thanks.
And
Me too.
I know we were
We have a
talking
lot to talk
before.
about.
We do. And, it's interesting because I just reached out to you because I had saw this post that you made on Facebook recently. And I'm like, that was so awesome. And so I ended up sending you a message and asked you if you'd be open to doing this interview. And here we are. And you reminded me, because I know we reconnected recently, just a few months ago at Giovanni's Archangel event in Austin.
Yeah.
And you reminded me that we originally met like back in 2013 in Genius Network, in Joe Polish's Genius Network group and stuff. And it's so interesting because, my goodness, that was like 11 years ago, and that seems like a lifetime ago. I was in a whole different business at that time.
Yeah.
But what a powerful testament to the value of right relationships, which is, of course, what this podcast is all about.
Because we took time to connect at Joe Polish's, just like in the hallway, a conversation about something we were both interested in. And you were really generous to be sharing some ideas with me and things. And so I remembered that. And I don't know that we've run into each other over the last 10 years between then and this last event, two powerful rooms that we were in. But when I saw you, I thought, I know that guy and I like that guy. And I didn't remember like where I'd seen you before because we've both been to so many of these events. But then it hit me later. We've had a conversation and it was about books and either way, when you remember connecting with someone, you can bring that back in. So when we saw each other and I said, come to dinner with us. And it was just a wonderful group of people at dinner.
That was such an awesome evening. And I think I have now, what was the other gal's name? The other blonde had Kelly. She is the only one that was at dinner that night that I have not had a conversation with since.
Oh, great.
Everybody else I've had conversations with. So, and it is, and of course, Giovanni, I've known Gio for 12 years, and Gio has become such a close friend, and it's been totally amazing to watch what he's done with Archangel. And in reality, man, he's just getting started. I mean, he's doing such amazing stuff. And so anybody that would be in Gio's world, it's like the vetting has already been done,
Agreed.
So it's really cool to meet people in an environment like that, because you just know, well, they're my kind of people, because if they weren't, they wouldn't even be here.
I agree. And I met Gio first at a Joe Polish event too.
Yeah.
And then I went to the first Archangel event I went to was in 2017.
Okay.
He's someone to follow and be around and get inspired by, because big things he makes little.
Yeah.
And it's so inspiring to see his vision of these big things being absolutely attainable.
Yeah.
That inspires you, the big things that you have out there. You're like, oh, this is nothing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. He is an inspiration for sure. So what I'd like to do is just kind of start off. I want to turn it over to you so we can set a little bit of context. I want you to be able to share, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you're doing, and just kind of, give the listeners an idea of who you are, Steffani, and what you're all about and the impact you're making in the world.
Cool. I'm a happiness coach. I help women find more daily happiness through, I have courses, I have a mastermind. I now have a Soul Happy certification. So I teach women how to teach what I teach.
Okay.
I have a book. I'm writing my second book. I do speaking and all of that stuff. Just my real end result is to help more women understand their soul experience.
Okay.
So that they can find more joy along the journey.
Okay.
And so all of the different avenues of writing a book or creating a course or speaking on stage or any of those things help me get to that end result. That's what lights me up the most.
That
So
is awesome.
yeah, creating content comes easy for me. Like on Instagram or in my groups, I have a inner circle after women graduate from my courses. They stay getting coached by me in my inner circle. And those calls, like they light me up to get on calls with these ladies. We do challenges, we do hot seat coaching, and that's what I love to do. And I do it. 90% of my work is just spent creating content and doing, calls with ladies and keeping them engaged in this work. And so they can consciously create their best life. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, are the women that you're working with, I mean, are they entrepreneurs, or they come all walks of life?
All walks of life, from
Okay.
moms with 7 kids to entrepreneurs, most married moms, some divorced or single moms, but moms from all over. And it's interesting. We were just looking at, it's a lot of women in the US, but it's a lot of women from Australia and New Zealand
Okay.
and from all over the world. But it's like a large piece of it is from Australia and New Zealand. I don't know why I resonate with women in Australia and New Zealand so much.
Wow.
But it's the US, then Australia, New Zealand, then the rest of the world. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very. And how long have you been doing this now, Steffani?
I've been doing this for 12 years.
12
Yeah.
years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
But most would say all my life, because this
Okay.
is just who I've always been.
Yeah.
Everyone except my sisters would probably agree that I'm a happiness coach and always have been, but they're my biggest clients. So they would agree in the long run. Yeah, I think it's always been ingrained in me. I saw this, my brother gave me a card that I wrote him when he was graduating from high school. So I was in college. And the card was like, listen, believe in yourself because you can be and do and have anything that you want in life. You are the creator of your experience and you can. And I was probably 20 at the time. And I was looking at this card going, wow, that's what I do now. That is the essence of who I am. And I didn't remember at 20 years old being that and preaching that. And so I saw that card and went, wow, I'm definitely living what my soul assignment speak. Yeah.
Wow. 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 I'll tell you, Stephanie, I don't think most people who become entrepreneurs reach the point where you and I have, where we are just so passionate. We just love the work we get to do. We love the people. I do not have one person in my life that I don't love serving, and it makes all the difference in the world, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're wanting to grow their business and all that, and so they just, I don't know what their motivation. Well, you know what? When I started my first business, which was a carpet cleaning and restoration business way back when, I knew this guy in Seattle. He was in that business, and from the outside looking in, it seemed like he was doing okay. And I thought, well, if he can do it, so can I. And really, that was my own thing. Is I just wanted to make money in business,
Yeah.
And it was, I'd like to say it was something grander vision than that, but it wasn't, not at all, But now I've got vision. Now I love doing what I do. I love who I serve. I love the impact we get to make. I mean, like you, and the thing is, Steffani, when you talk about it, there is no hiding your passion about it, And so the right people just get attracted to you.
Yeah.
And well, okay, so now we've got a little bit of context set. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and I'm gonna reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. So, Stephanie, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Stephanie, I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you do this for a living because I feel like a connector too, but I've never put into words like that or experienced it as like really the depth of what I think it is and what you're showing the world that it can be. But that's such a great question. And in 2012, I was already teaching this kind of work. I had created something called a life map process. And the life map, I was teaching people how to put their life into 6 different categories and like what they wanted and why they wanted it and how they could get it. And it was like little clip art images on a little piece of paper and just teaching people about consciously creating a life that they want instead of what they don't want. And I was doing that in like little yoga studios or like in my own home. I'd started a business called Positive Focus Productions, and I was hosting speakers in Chicago because back then I didn't have it clearly defined. Like I want to help more women find more joy along the journey, more daily happiness. But I knew that I wanted to give people what I'd gotten out of personal growth and out of, you know, all of these teachers and authors and the inspiration and the motivation and the results from this inner work. So I started that business and I was teaching these little courses, and then I found Lifebook. Lifebook was in Chicago then, and John and Missy Butcher had founded Lifebook, and someone told me about it and I was like, it's here in Chicago in my backyard. This is a boutique personal growth, like 4-day experience. How do I not know about this? And I went to Lifebook in February of 2012. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, John and Missy Butcher had created this really incredible program that, similar to my life book, my life map, life book was your complete life. And it was this, you know, total immersion of 4 days looking at your life and what you wanted and why you wanted it and how you were going to get it in such a grander way that I came home each night from Lifebook saying to my husband, oh my God, this is like the pinnacle of personal growth. Like, this is amazing. And I said to him, I need to work for Lifebook. And he goes, well, you're already doing it. Why don't you just create your own Lifebook? I go, well, you don't go to Disney World and decide you want to build your own Disney World. You just work at Disney, you know, like they've already got it done. Like there's no making it better. So at Lifebook, in my Lifebook, I said, I want to work at Lifebook. It was like a huge dream. I didn't know how it could happen. I had my own business and I was working a full-time job at a health club that I'd been at for a long time. And I loved doing that. I loved managing people. I loved customer service. I loved the way that I could serve people in that way. I never planned on leaving it, but I saw this like crack of this vision of this new experience and how impressed I was with them and with this program. And so I put together a resume that I'd never had, and I put all my personal growth stuff on it. And I said to them, I really want to work here. And they said, oh, thank you, but we're not hiring. I said, and I'm not looking for a job, but I need to work here. And 2 weeks later, they hired me.
Wow.
They put together a job for me. My title became the Director of Happiness.
Okay.
And I was kind of concierging, and I was like teaching people about the program. And then I learned how to teach the program. And also at that first Lifebook event that I was at, I heard about A-Fest, which was the Pine Valley, really amazing retreat and conference that was held in these luxury locations all over the world. And I was like, this I have to experience. I put it on like my 10-year bucket list. Like in 10 years, I'd like to go to Lifebook. Well, later that year, that same year, they asked me to go to Lifebook, to go to A-Fest representing Lifebook.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I'm shocked in less than a year how my life changed from these two people and this program. I got to meet Vishen Lakshani. And I remember just being at A-Fest, looking around thinking, everyone here is like the healthiest, happiest, most successful people I've ever known. Like, how did I get here? Like, I slipped through the cracks. Like, what am I doing here? Right? I could see in every other person there how much I believed in them. And I didn't even believe in myself that like I deserved to be in this room because it was so new to me. And I met Vishen at the pool, and someone introduced us, and he shook my hand and said, oh, great, you're here with Lifebook. I said, yeah. And he said, you need to come over to Kuala Lumpur and teach Lifebook in the Hall of Awesomeness.
Wow.
And was like, just close my eyes for a second and launch that rocket of desire. And I thought, wow, would that be cool? But I don't even know if I have what it takes to even be in this room. Are you kidding me? To go to Kuala Lumpur and to teach Lifebook in the Hall of Awesomeness, like this incredible program that I love, to this incredible business that I love. So I launched that rocket of desire, but just let it go. Yeah. And I'm working at Lifebook and I'm going to A-Fest, and years go by and I was in it. I was doing my own work to build up the belief that I needed to understand that I even deserved to be in the room, right? I kept doing the work. I had the morning routine. I had the like showing up in the rooms. I had all of the positive things that I needed in order to stay plugged in to this world of the happiest, healthiest, most successful people that I had ever seen and known. And I kept going back to A-Fest year after year, whether Lifebook sent me or I would just go on my own. Because I was like, this is a room that is a vetted room, like you said, that I want to be in. And so if I've got my foot in the door, I'm not going to let go of this. I'm going to keep going. And I kept going. And from that day, about 4 years later, I got a call from John Butcher one Tuesday afternoon in November. And he said, hey, would you consider flying over to Kuala Lumpur and teaching Lifebook in the Hall of Awesomeness for Mindvalley? And there I was a few months later, flying first class on Emirates Airlines over to Kuala Lumpur to teach my dream program to my dream company. And all of this happened because I met John and Missy Butcher and I went to Lifebook.
Wow.
And I think thinking about relationships and how, like, this is how these relationships served me. But the important piece about relationships is how we can serve them. And so the whole time that I was with Lifebook, all I wanted to do was serve Lifebook and thank Lifebook and John and Missy for how they had changed my life. So I sent people, I paid for people to go through Lifebook. I invited people to go through Lifebook. I told anyone and everyone that would listen about it. You know, I was in the space to grow this thing that did so much for me. And the same for A-Fest and Mindvalley. I was so impressed with them, and I am such a fan, and they do so much incredible work. And so at one point there was Lifebook was going one direction and A-Fest was going another direction. Like they'd done a few things together, but then they weren't anymore. They were their own businesses. And I felt like all I could do was hang on to the tail of this rocket and hang on to the tail of this rocket and just like see where they would go and how they could ever come back together. And so I would always say to John and Missy, like, Vision is incredible and he's doing amazing things. And, you know, he is such a visionary and Mindvalley is going to take off and it's doing. And then I would say to Mindvalley and Vision, hey, like Lifebook is such an incredible program. Like, don't forget, you know. And there was a time that I got to connect them and say, you guys need to get on a call together. You have to get on a call. And now Mindvalley and Lifebook are, you know, Lifebook is owned by Mindvalley. Wow. And so not like I'm taking 100% credit for having, but I think I know that I kept pulling those two rockets back together. Like, please don't forget about how much you're both serving a world that is, you know, really complementary to each other. And so how can they come together? And John and Missy Butcher did say like, hey, Steffani, you did a lot of work at like connecting us back together. They invited me to Bali one time to like thank me for like planting the seeds in Mindvalley about Lifebook and planting the seeds of Mindvalley and Lifebook and vice versa, so that those seeds could grow. Like that's what these relationships are about, you know? Yeah. When I went to A-Fest and I kept going to A-Fest, I was never at A-Fest to serve myself. Like, who can I meet here? How can I get my own teaching to grow? It was like, how can I serve? How can I serve? Show me how to serve. There was so many times when I would go to those things and I'd meet incredible people and I'd connect them together. And I just, you know, back off going, yes, Like, this is how I could serve this incredible thing that served me. It served me in a way of inspiring me to grow beyond what I ever dreamed and create the business that I ultimately have now, that I love so much. I really credit Lifebook and Mind Valley for that.
Yeah.
So any way that I can show up in the room, like even when I go to, Geo's Archangel things, it's like, how can I serve? Like, who can I meet? How can I contribute to them? You are, I'm so like you, Kevin, where I'm just looking at the ways that I can plug in and connect people and serve those people. And it's a very different energy.
Yeah. I that's exactly what as you're sharing all of that, Steffani, I'm like, I see so much of myself in her. It's like looking in the mirror, and I'm like, and the way you talk about how you feel and how I'm just like, man, I feel every bit of that, and you talked about how you had to grow into this person where you believed that you belonged in the room, that you deserved to be there, that you were meant. And that was some challenging growth for me to go through as well. Because for a long time, I didn't feel, oh my God, I remember the first time I went to a Genius Network meeting was 2008. I think it was it 2008? Is that when it was? 8? Yeah, it's been, and 2008. And I remember being there. There was probably 35 members at that time. And I remember being in that room going, wow, and feeling like I do not belong here. These people are doing stuff so much bigger than me. And like, how would I ever be of value or service to anybody here? We're way beyond me, and I remember even talking with Joe about that, because Joe and I'd already been working with him because I had the cleaning and restoration business, and then he invited me to be in Genius Network, and I'm like, Joe, I don't belong here. And he's like, yes, you do, Kev. He's like, yes, you do. He's like, I would have never invited you here if I didn't feel that you belonged here. He's like, you totally belong here.
Yep.
And
we belong if we decide we belong.
That's right.
It's not just if other people believe in us. It's when we decide to believe in ourselves. There's no difference between anyone who's achieved great things and us, except the belief that we can.
Yes.
And so he's right. And I had the exact same experience. Yeah. I needed to see it for myself that I deserve to be in the room, and how much I could contribute to the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right, because other people saw it in me. Joe saw it in me back then, and I didn't see it in myself. Yeah. And it was not until I saw it in myself and came to the conclusion and the discovery that, like, oh yeah, you belong here. And now I'm just like, oh yeah, Kev, you're the guy. You you deliver. I just know now. But until I got there, but once you get there, you're like, oh, look at what happens. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation, to share your story. And I know that there is people listening to this going, man, Kev, I really like Steffani. I love her story. How can they find out more information? Is there websites, any resources that we can share with them if they want to find out more about what you're doing? And
coachwithsteff.com.
Okay.
Steph is with 2 F's. Coachwithsteff.com and Coach with Steph on Instagram. I share a lot of reels and a lot of free content. I have a Happy Habits checklist that's free. I have some really wonderful free programs. So come and join me on this ride. It's so much fun.
Awesome. So is there any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
I think that our connections are why we're here. I'm writing this book called Soul Assignments, and I believe that we have these soul contracts, these assignments with other people in our lives to advance our soul experience, to advance our human experience. And when we honor those, like sending gratitude to those people, like the shout outs that you do, like, going up to someone who we've met before, like I did with you at the Archangel event, like those things are more special and more important, I think, than we give word to, and so honoring those things, like people ask me all the time, like, how did you get invited to this, or how did you get to that? Well, I showed up like in my light, honoring and thanking the people that got me anywhere that I am. And so it continues. And so serving those people that serve us and showing gratitude for them, and being their biggest fans and talking them up in the rooms and going into a room to see how you can serve. I think those are the best ways that we can continue to facilitate these really magical relationships.
Yeah. And you are so right, because the right relationships, they will open any door we could possibly want to open, and have it happen so easily, so quickly, so just in flow. And then when we're there, it's like the red carpet has just been rolled right out for us, and it's the most amazing thing. I mean, when you meet somebody who was referred or came through a mutual friend that you already have all this admiration and respect for, it's like when you talk for the first time, you just already, right from word one, you feel like you've known each other for years already, because of that mutual friend that each of us have,
Yeah.
And it is such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what this podcast is all about. And Steffani, I want to thank you again for taking the time to have this conversation. I am so excited to get this out there and to share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs. So thank you so much again. Really appreciate you.
I love knowing you and loved connecting with you. It was awesome. You're good at this. Great
to
be
thanks. I appreciate you saying that.